Control C. Hello, everyone. My name is Del, or Delazar, whatever the fuck you want to call me, right? We're gonna be watching a video by Yinka. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. Anyways, this is, and I quote, "Why magic users are more interesting than magic systems." Have I ever seen any of their videos before? No, but I thought interesting title, probably informative, and let's check it out. So let's go into it.
Something I think might actually be more important than the system and doesn't get enough attention are its users, who wields the magic. There are high concept
Mm-hmm.
systems that are just cool regardless of the person it's attached to, but even then, the users still define it. And that's the key
Mm-hmm.
word
Mm-hmm.
here. Definition. The perception of magic, both in world, in the story, and to whomever is experiencing it, is largely defined by its users. I mean, how
Okay.
differently
Okay.
would we perceive the Lord of the Rings magic if Grand wasn't a word Tolkien decided to tie to everyone who had it? The system is only one
What?
half. These guys, the ones directly affecting the course of the story, they
Yeah.
bring it to life. But the
I only know
question
two of these people. I'm saying no Gojo, Alexander Gandalf. Who the fuck is this?
is how? Hold on a second. Observe the almighty pyramid of magic
Mm-hmm.
users, TM. Every layer is necessary to create the premium reaction between the user and the system. I analyzed way too many fictional characters doing things that aren't possible for this. Also, this totally
Mm-hmm.
isn't an arbitrary list I came up with for my own writing. I am objectively right. In an order
What?
that I will disclose later, this first layer is what I have
I love this motherfucker already. The use of sarcasm, humor, and most importantly, so fucking on the nail. Obviously, this is our world export in the subject, and nothing he says can be fallible.
dubbed use diversity. On the surface, you would think it's self-explanatory how differently do people use the magic, right? But it goes several layers deep. Like for starters, what is the system in question? Is it even wieldable? Again,
Mm-hmm.
half and half. The system could vary wildly in terms of diversity, which isn't always recommended. Go
Yeah.
deep, not wide. Thank you, Brando Sando. But it can be done and done well.
Hold up, what?
Diversity, which isn't always recommended. Go deep, not
Let me know if you want me to go deeper into Sanderson's laws of magic. Who the fuck is Sanderson? Who the fuck is this brick shaped man? The fridge shaped man. Actually, you know what? I kind of like his shirt. The little duck design is kind of neat. Or swan. Or just bird. We're gonna say bird. The bird design's pretty neat.
why, thank you, Brando Sando. But it can be done and done well. Fantastic example of this is an anime, My Hero Academia, or One Piece actually, if you ignore the other thing, where no two people ever really have the same ability. In that case, the use diversity is massive. People are obviously going to use it differently because they don't have the same power. I see use diversity as not how differently people use the magic, but an inherent difference in the system. So it's less about their different styles of earthbending or waterbending, and more about there are three other full bending disciplines, and as a rule, you do not have access to them. I'll get to why that divide, as little as it may seem, is very important. But the thing is, as varied as the fruits are in One Piece, Oda still allows classification, an umbrella type that these unique magic fruits fall under. Horikoshi still
Yeah.
narrows My Hero's diversity. There are techniques like Flash Fire Fist that you can only use if your powers work a certain way, and also broad classifications, which imply some level of sameness. A different level of
Yeah.
diversity is one where you have a standard set of abilities, but then there's heavy customization, or you can pick and choose. Think Nen from Hunter x Hunter.
God, Nin. So, weird part about Nin is I think the fucking tests that I've taken, a couple of them line me up as like a manipulator. I'm like, I guess, but okay. It'd be weird trying to fucking control people. Let me just smack the fuck out of him with strength.
Here is still very diverse, but they all use the same basic principles, which is always fun to see and can say a lot about the character by how they choose to costumize. Side note, characterization by magic is immensely fun to play with. Yet another level of diversity though is doing magic thing A will always equal magic thing B. This style is the
Okay.
most restrictive when it comes to use diversity, and as much as this is restrictive, the users can still find ways to apply it that are unique to them in spite of constraints and rules. This is the there are different styles of earthbending. YouTube.
I don't give a fuck about the premium. Get the fuck out my sight. Come on. I want to get to actually good content
Speaking
because it
of
seems
rules, though, you might
educational.
have noticed.
By the way, at times in this, I'm just gonna break out and talk about my setting for my own damn story because fuck it, I might as well, right? This is a writing based thing. That's what I'm gonna do. That way, it's not just me watching someone else's video. I'm also giving my own input, but it's mostly me just telling my own bullshit. Magic in my setting just works in the way of there's 1,000 different fucking ways of casting spells because every culture comes up with their own way of using mana. Most of them come up with in the same result. You can have 1,000 different ways to get the same result, but the same. And I love it. It also means that everyone gets, the uniqueness of the magic, but you can also have things that do the same thing.
Notice how the use diversity spectrum is similar to the hard soft magic spectrum. This is really fascinating
Mm-hmm.
because the thing is, it's not parallel, it's actually adjacent. No shot, I'm the guy
Ooh.
using graphs to explain magic. Yes, I am, and I absolutely love it. This
I
first
like it.
quadrant with hard diverse
Fuck
magic
yeah.
is where a surprising amount of magic systems fall,
Intelligent
like
black
a
man, I'm doing it with
vods.
this.
It's usually in the form of the system being divided into classes and it being made clear what those classes are, what they bring to the table. On the harder side, we would have Lightbringer's chromaturgy. Around that same hardness
Uh
scale,
huh.
way more diverse would be Stormlight Surge Binding. A little bit softer, less diverse, but still hard leaning is where Avatar's Bending would sit. But
Okay.
similar softness, way more diversity has Jujutsu Kaisen's Curse techniques. Also,
Jesus
go watch that
Christ,
anime if you
JDK is
haven't. I've been
absurd.
screaming season two's praises off the rooftop. Mainly because it's a fantastic study for the relationship between user and system.
Especially with the fact that JDK is literally powered by negativity. God damn, the egotism in that anime is beautiful.
The second quadrant, housing hard systems, with the sameness about them has broken heterogeny. They endure from
Don't know that.
Atlantis, but a little bit on the softer side. And if we were to take a lot of the individual classes from the previous quadrant as full-on magic systems, they would probably fall in line pretty well. Here, everyone is pretty much given the same abilities, and since it's hard magic, it's exposited decently well, which has its own effects on the story, which I will get to, as well as what all this means. But this third quadrant, though, I have christened the Ghibli corner. Nothing really makes sense here. Everything is different, unique, and has its own laws that it plays by. Watch a Ghibli movie, you'll get it immediately. This last quadrant, though, I couldn't come up with an example. If you have any in mind, please let me know.
Where
Because
everyone's
as
the same, but
commonplace
it's a
as
soft
hard, diverse
system.
magic systems are, soft systems with the sameness, a lack of inherent diversity, are just as rare. Either that or not as well read as I thought, but I found it intriguing regardless. Imagine a system, let's say telekinesis, where everyone has the same power, move stuff with your mind, but nothing else is really given. No extents, no limits, no conditions. If it wanted to move up the scale with hardness, maybe we could say you could only move the amount you weigh, and then only at the speed you could throw it at. No, let's actually make speed scale with the size of the object. People would definitely use that differently, but if we wanted to shift it towards diverse, we would have to create a fundamental delineation in ability. These guys can
Yeah,
only push, these guys can only pull, these
you can
guys can
only.
only affect inorganic matter. But as
Yes.
fun as this is breaking it down,
This person can only push or move chunks of things in the shape of an arrow. So if he grabs a sidewalk, it's going to just fucking bring up a big concrete arrow and throw it at someone. I feel like that's. Yeah, no, not checking my DMs while mid
I'm not
video.
just
Nope.
doing this for propriety's sake. I'm not classifying to classify. Each of
Mm-hmm.
these quadrants have their own unique feeling, a purpose they bring to the magic system and the story at large, which is why looking at your system from a user's perspective is so interesting. The first quadrant systems read like a playground. Since it's hard leaning, there's a level you understand. But since it's also diverse, it becomes a matter of application. It's easily geared towards a problem-solving function. Which
Mm-hmm.
user is best for the situation at hand? Who's most geared towards solving this issue? Knowing this is what you're doing with your magic system means you can put your characters in scenarios where they are the worst person for the job. Or if a user breezes through a problem, we know, hey, their magic was especially adept at this. The rules were set up earlier and they were pretty much made for this problem. If the first quadrant is a playground though, the second quadrant is just ground, I guess. Or rather groundedness.
What?
Everyone has the same abilities. You, the reader, know exactly what they do. It is the epitome of doing magic thing A will equal magic thing B. The second corner is
Yeah.
a tool. And this is why acknowledging that divide I mentioned is so important, because it separates the first and second quadrants. People can obviously use tools differently, but there is no inherent diversity. They all get the same thing. It's more focused on how adept you are at using that tool, and it tickles the logicking part of the reader's brain. You might even figure out
Yes. Yes.
applications
Yes. Yes.
before
Yes.
they're explained to you, because you're imagining how you would use it. And it is so satisfying when you
Okay, so I get this one so much when I watched fucking Avatar because I was like, hmm, I feel like I'd be a water tribe person, but I know damn well that I am not someone who's going to be flowing with the water like that. Wait a second, ice is a thing. I can just use ice bending in the same way that you do earth bending, and then I can make weapons out of the ice and start whooping people's ass with it. Like, there's so many different uses and things that you can do with all these different magic systems, especially when they allow you to really customize and get into it, or you can just reuse them in different ways.
you're shown a new application to solve a problem that makes sense and you could have thought of within the rules, but didn't. The Ghibli corner, however, is the complete opposite. It runs on pure wonder. Since nothing really makes sense and everything is different, that becomes the constant, that you don't know anything. And that could be used to achieve a lot of different emotions. Pure wonder, like I said. Boundless curiosity, unbridled fear of the unknown. Since this magic doesn't have a shape, it becomes simple to conform it to what the story needs. Amplify themes, characterize. Simple, not easy though. This is what purists believe all magic in fantasy should be, but I digress.
No.
Systems in this quadrant can do problem solving, but eliminating stakes rather than navigating them.
I feel like a really cool way of doing this is not have any of the actual heroes be able to use this wonder based power. Have the antagonist have some unknowable, uncontrollable nonsense. Meanwhile, the actual heroes themselves are using purely just their weapons and their blades, trying to understand what the fuck they can do, trying to figure out what limits there is, if there are even limits. Eh.
Is almost never a good story thing. And magic is kind of prone to that, especially if the particular aspect that's used is not explained sufficiently enough, which it probably isn't in this case because of the nature of this quadrant. Which is probably also why this magic tends to solve an immediate problem but make the overall situation worse, increasing stakes, not lowering them. If this is pure wonder though, I see this last quadrant as mystique. Because there is a sameness, there's not so many different things to keep track of, the reader will probably develop a sense of familiarity. There's one aspect they kind of understand, it's the everyone has telekinesis thing. But since nothing else really gets revealed because soft magic, it would revolve around that singular known concept without the upper or lower limits of what that means being revealed. I imagine a common theme revolving around this style of magic would be learning more about the system. Maybe Ian Dorr from Elantris actually falls in here. By the way, if you're curious about the
Fire
ebook I
Force?
reference, it's
Oh my fucking god, you're right, it's just Fire Force. Everyone has fire shit, but what that fire can do can vary hella fucking wild. There ain't no damn telling what the fuck Fire Force characters can do, because someone's gonna pull out with, I can speed up infinitely and keep going kicking. I'm going to be someone who's literally so delusional, I become God! Like, there's a thousand motherfuckers doing all sorts of crazy shit in Fire Force. Anyways.
link down below. Read the synopsis, pick it up for fun or further exploration, which I always recommend you do. Again, these are just theories and imaginations. Oh wait, I forgot, I'm objectively right. Regardless of where a
Yes, you
system
are.
largely
Don't
falls though,
forget
it can
that.
still have specific elements that pull from other quadrants. But that takes me to the second layer of the pyramid where we start to tackle knowledge. In every facet of the word. Knowledge isn't just power. Here, it's magical power. And once again, it has
Yes.
its own mini layers. Questions. How much do magic users know about the system? What is the difference in knowledge between users? How do they acquire more knowledge? Just like use diversity, it's something you might touch on while coming up with the system on its own. But it doesn't really get concrete until you start writing the people actually using this system. You don't get a real feel for how answers to these questions play off each other until they're on the page. And I wasn't expecting it to go here, but somehow the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge layer ends up determining a lot of relationships. How much do the magic users know? This question intrinsically implies there is a lack of knowledge, that users don't have complete comprehension
Hey, local. Okay, we'll be getting into the tabs type stuff like after this video.
of the magic system. Kind of like a puzzle, but you only get one piece at a time, and how adept you are at magic stuff depends on how many pieces you have and if you've put them in the right place. Pretty hard to get a full picture, and some users start with more pieces than others, some users get individual pieces faster. Regardless of the rate of learning though, the average base knowledge of the users determines their interaction with the magic. Are they apprehensive or curious because they don't understand, confident or reverent
Mm-hmm.
because they do, shaping their perception of the magic and by extension the readers. Stormlight Archives, the behemoth it is, does this pretty well. It has this magical renaissance thing going
Stormlight.
on with people trying to wrap their head around things they don't fully understand. But it
Ooh.
leans into the next question: what is the difference in knowledge between users? If the
I actually kind of like the idea of just people not knowing how the fuck magic works. Meanwhile, another group does know what it is, but they're not able to do it well. So they're trying to like slowly grab people who can do it but don't know it. It's like, hey yo, you wanna get conscripted into the army? Come on now, come on. Yeah, just sign here, sign here, sign here. Like it'd be really fucking fun. I guess that'd be like contractual magic type of deal.
The first question deals with the relationship of user to magic. This interaction is user to user. What does it mean when one person understands the system better than another? Does it mean more proficiency? Is it actually desirable not to know as much because it can mess with you? How does it change the way they fight when combat is involved?
Especially when it comes to systems such as like JJK, when they say, "Hey, telling people about your powers makes them stronger." But some people have abilities that only really work if you don't know how the fuck they work. Because once you understand them, you can play around them. But once you know about them, they become stronger. So it's really fucking interesting. And you can do shit like that. Especially because if you have a magic system that's based on, like, say, belief, knowing what your other opponent is able to do is honestly a debuff. Because if you didn't know that this was the almighty god sword, your belief of it wouldn't be so high and it would do less damage to you.
If there is a big difference in the amount of puzzle pieces one user has over another, it goes without saying that it can influence the way they interact, talk, fight, beliefs even. But also, the perspective you choose to convey the story to the reader changes how they look at it as well. Side note, this is why I love writing multiple POVs. It's so fun painting the same thing from varied perspective, characters
Mm-hmm.
asking different questions. The third, however, how users acquire more knowledge, is a moot question if the answer is they can't acquire more knowledge. They can't increase
What?
their skill, which is mostly true for softer systems, but can be for the other side of the spectrum. This relationship is between the user
Mm-hmm.
and themselves. It can characterize them by how eager they are to learn. If the means towards learning is unsavory, will they go that far? It also touches on
I love the fact that you threw Sasuke on there, but at the same time, I have mixed feelings on Sasuke, right? I love him because he's the perfect little edge boy, right? But at the same time, god damn it, motherfucker. Why did you have to ruin everything and everyone who tried to help you? I mean, I know why, but god damn it.
whether the abilities are inborn or not, if there's still a learning curve after that, if the magic is even teachable. Inborn abilities could explain why acquiring more knowledge is impossible, you just gotta have it, which could lean into other world building spheres like class system, politics, races. Think of knowledge like you're playing a video game, and all these questions are sliders that change how the user interacts with the story, at least around magical themes. And there are other questions too, other sliders. How trustworthy is that knowledge? What is
Mm-hmm.
the limit to a skill a person can attain, and what affects that limit? Can proficiency be measured? I'm sure you can come up with more. These three are the ones I think the most important to my stories. Your stories can prioritize others. Just deduce what the
Yeah.
answers to these questions can mean for it. That being said, the third layer is what you probably had in mind when you heard me say magic users, and that is logistics. Not the word you thought I was going to say. This is
What?
the clear cut and
Mm.
dry stuff, the part of magic users that you would naturally go over when just coming up with the system. Is there a classification of users? What are they called? A structure to
Mm-hmm.
learning? Different sources they draw from, methods they use, different races by extension. How rare is it to be a user then? Questions upon questions. But this is the one I think impacts the most though. What is the scale of power? It's a simple thing, but it frames the entire structure of the story relating to magic. If everyone is chucking suns at each other, it becomes harder to write an alley gang war where everyone has powers. Also, remember when I said I would disclose how I ordered the layers? Yeah, this is that part. And the order is scope of impact. Because these are questions a
Ooh.
lot of writers naturally default to, doesn't make them any less valid. All these three layers are pretty much of the same importance to magic and the story as a whole, but their effect on the story differs, narrowing along with the pyramid. The logistics questions impact
Give me a second. I'm trying to pull the toenail that I was cutting this video. Oh yeah, I've been clipping my toes during this video. Yeah. Um. Okay, there we go.
on a much broader scale because it's pretty much set for the entire story when you answer them. And some answers can change and lead to their own interesting outcomes, usually for the plot, not just purely world building. But they are constant for the most part. Firm structures that all these sliders play off of, and when one changes, it's usually a big deal. Imagine a system where they all
Okay.
draw power from the same sources. We want it to be a pretty rare race that uses this magic system, but their demand is pretty high and the resources don't always meet that. Those are our constants. Now we apply knowledge sliders. They know a lot, but not everything about the magic system. They have a decent amount of puzzle pieces. Knowledge is pretty varied though, not everyone has the same puzzle pieces. And getting more is doable, but not always easy. So far, we've created a situation where it's every user for themselves, maybe a little war for resources even. But what does the diversity spectrum bring to the table? As we're thinking about how this system is going to be used for the plot, if at all, we decided it's going to be a harder magic system. So that would mean the
Mm-hmm.
puzzle
Mm-hmm.
pieces that the users do have are shown to the reader. And since we already kind of have this battle for resources going on, we could amplify that feeling of scarcity by giving everyone the same abilities. So the readers are told exactly why those resources matter and what a user can do with them, because we decided the nature of the story
Where are we
required a hard
building with
system.
this?
And at this point, there is a decently clear understanding of its strengths and weaknesses, which creates a dynamic where the readers can problem solve along with the characters. The magic magic system I just described is a deconstruction of Mistborn's allomancy. And that's another thing I
Hmm.
wanted to touch on. Writers tend to start with the answer first. I don't know where Sanderson started from, but I can guess it was somewhere along the lines of, I want a system where people ingest metals to give themselves different abilities. I want this ability and this ability to tie to these metals. Oh, and it'd be cool if some metals, some abilities are rarer than others. Maybe Tolkien did start
Mm-hmm.
by tying the word grand to every user and figuring out what that means from there.
Whatever it is, you have preconceived notions about the magic system and how it's applied. That gives us our constants, the foundation of the pyramid. Then you can move up the pyramid and ask all these questions, play with the sliders, and figure out what that means for your story. Then figure out which answers can elevate that particular piece even more.
Because even though you have what you want to do in
Mm-hmm.
mind, this isn't a formula to plug in some parameters and the output you get is a complete engaging magic system.
Mm-hmm. No, and no, and no. This is a lie. Why did he go through all of this so far and tell me that it was objective, only to tell me that it was actually subjective? That's not fair. You can't change your mind. You have to have only one definitive truth. Sorry,
No,
I'm
it works in
I'm
tandem
cosplaying
as
a
you
YouTube
develop the
comment too.
system. An effort to recognize what you're doing in the moment so it becomes more and more intuitive. Keeping users in mind instead of only what the system can do is a great step towards that. And as always, the goal is to inspire through understanding, not have all this crammed in your head when you're trying to write. And in the vein of understanding, this video talks about why you want to have a magic system in the first place. Hope I made
Ooh.
some sense.
Anyways, I actually like this a lot. We'll be checking out more of his stuff. But everybody, go down into the description of this video and then, well, go over there and like him, subscribe to him, and actually help this motherfucker and whatever he's doing. Actually, let's see. Done art, okay. Books reference, yeah. I'll probably just copy and paste most of these and throw them down and it's like reference that he can get his people to get support. But my name's been Dell. I hope that everyone here has a great fucking day. And oh yeah, shit. I just realized I have another thing to do after this video. Sorry. And also at the same time, like this video as well, mine. You can comment if you have anything to say. You can subscribe even if you really want to. I would love that. Anyways, bye everybody. My name's been Deb. Oh, how's the stream going so far? It's been pretty